AIR is a contemporary art exhibition focused on air as a subject matter and a material. It has 16 artists from around the world, also a number of regional artists from the American West, as well as local artists from Salt Lake City. It also incorporates work by 16 student artists from Utah, and additionally it has artwork made by members of our own community. The UMFA has been working on this exhibition for a while. When I moved to Utah 10 years ago, I wasn't really aware of what inversion was or the health impacts of breathing in large amounts of particulate matter on a daily basis. And the longer I lived here and became familiar with that reality and saw artists making work about that and our community talking about it, it became really apparent that the UMFA could support that community conversation and that we could show the work being made by artists. So over the years, we've been studying and researching work being made and looking at artists all over the world who are also impacted by issues of air quality and put together this exhibition to contribute to that conversation.
One of the reasons why we wanted to have the posters as part of this exhibition is we were really interested in the exhibition empowering people to use their voice and tell people in positions of power about how they feel about air and whatever is important to them in this kind of invisible element that means so much to all of us that we need. And so we really wanted to engage young voices and the youth to help us think through that and hopefully make people want to enact some change within their own lives and how what they do impacts air. So kind of knowing that what they do every day, whether it's driving a car or other things, really affect all of us. We're excited to include them. There's 16 posters in the exhibition, and they all are the statewide winners from 2020. So I think 800 students participated in the program throughout that year, and the 16 winners are here and on view. And we're really excited to have them.
I work with Dr. Rosalind Brain McCann, and she and I together created the Utah High School Clean Air Marketing Contest. It was stemmed from a conference that was held at Utah State University by the Cache Clean Air Consortium. And there were a number of issues that were talked about at that conference, but one of them is that there weren't a lot of education outreach programs engaging kids about air pollution. So we decided to develop a contest so that way we could make it exciting. I think kids don't want to be preached to. So we wanted to create an education program that would spark their imagination and spark their creativity. And so we piloted the project in 2015 at Logan High School, and then from there it gradually grew. What we find is that contests spark joy for learning that you really can't replicate in the classroom. And so a competition is really effective in terms of getting kids to be interested in a topic. The air pollution is not something that people would naturally think is a really exciting topic, but if you can create a competition, and the competition centers around creating public service announcements. So the students learn not just air pollution strategies, things such as not idling and taking the bus and carpooling and using an app rather than going through the drive-through when you go to your favorite restaurant. Those are things that we teach in the program. But we also teach marketing communication strategies. So we teach them about parody, how to make fun of your favorite movie. We also teach them humor, fear tactics, all these different types of strategies for communicating. So the students have to deal with two issues. One is, what is the clean air action that you want to talk about? And then how are you going to communicate that in your public service announcement? And then the winners of these, of the contests are then used for education outreach across the state.
The message that I was trying to convey was something that I felt like not a lot of people were addressing. So one important aspect that Ed taught to us while he was giving the presentation was the idea of idling in drive-thrus. and just idling in general. I feel like not a lot of people specifically focused on one topic, and that was one that was really interesting to me because I feel like that affects a large population and like the entirety of like the United States. Everywhere they go through drive-thrus. And so I tried to come up with like a catchy slogan for my piece, and I came up with the idea of drive through to the parking lot. And I wanted to create a poster that was more humorous and could kind of like be a catchy slogan so that it would stick in people's heads. So with my piece, I wanted to capture the essence of old newspaper clippings, like cartoons that you would see in like New York Times and stuff like that. And I also really love Charlie Brown and Peanuts, so that was something that was really like inspiring to me.
It's important to feature students in this contest because some of the feedback that we got early on was that this was the only education that the teens were getting about Utah air pollution. We actually conducted a study, and it was published just this past month, and we found that most students said that this was the only exposure to air pollution that they've had in terms of formal education. And so for us, it was kind of surprising that no one was really educating them about the pollution. And so we believe that the contest does it in a way that sparks joy, makes it exciting to talk about air pollution that you really couldn't do in a traditional lecture in a class.
One of our goals is really to make this invisible element of air visible, and just to recognize this important element that we all depend on to live, that we all share in many ways. And so I hope that when people leave the exhibition, they'll notice, the wind blowing through the trees and seeing air in more visual ways, or the ways if there's a wind chime or the noise that it makes. We also hope that they'll realize that they matter and that their voice matters in issues around air, that they'll take some action, they'll speak up, whatever their point of view is, that they know that they can talk about that with other people. So we're hoping that this exhibition will really start lots of conversations and getting people to talk about this thing that's so important to all of us.
So what I'm hoping is that people will see this artwork, be inspired by it, and next time they can think about them when we have a Red Air Day, that they can think about, hey, what are some alternative ways that I can drive or move myself so that way I can try to preserve air quality.
I'm hopeful that the visitors will learn about air and different issues. I suspect that many residents from Utah and from Salt Lake will be aware of the inversion and ozone issues, but maybe they're not aware of ways in which they can make changes in their daily life. So we've put a big effort into creating interactive or hands-on stations where we can think about this, or we've supplied avenues to enact your civic duty to respond and communicate with your representatives. So sharing information, information about specific issues, but also how you can make change as a citizen. And then I think there will be issues that aren't as familiar to our community, and raising awareness is the first place to start to make change. So, I do hope that it will have an impact beyond these walls. It has impacted the UMFA. I know it's inspired us to change the way that we work and think about the footprint that the UMFA has on air quality and on the environment more broadly. So.